ISBN Zeraminus 87Tu286-313 1996 by Guillermo Gómez-Peña, all rights reserved. Jate Now. Since I never finish a text, there have been several versions, not just drafts, of most of the pieces included in this book, and there will probably be others which are yet to be realized. My performance texts and chronicles have included different collaborators at different times, and not all of them are represented in the versions we appear here, although I've tried to mention as many as I can. Anyone interested in other representations of my work can use the following list as a preliminary guide. Free Falling Toward a Borderless Future was originally part of Califas, a performance poem published in my first book, Warrior, for Gringo Streka, Grey Wolf Press, 1993. Other versions have appeared in Yale Theater Magazine, Spring, 1995, and Border X from Terra, a radio art piece anthologized in the double CD collection of my audio work, Borderless Radio, produced by Word of Mouth Music, Toronto, 1994. Different versions of the Free Trade Art Agreement have appeared in The Subversive Imagination, edited by Carol Becker, Routledge Press, 1994, Mapping the Terrain, edited by Suzanne Lacey. Bay Press, 1994, Grantmakers in the Arts New Letter, Spring 1995, and High Performance Magazine, Fall 1993. Different versions of The New World Order have appeared in Third Text, Winter 1992, High Performance Magazine, Summer Fall 1992, The Drama Review, No, 38-1, Spring 1994, and Zerda, Mexico City, 1994. Real Life Border Thriller was first published in the LA Weekly, May 28, June 3, 1993. The 90s Culture of Xenophobia appeared in the Movement Research Journal, Spring 1995, and an excerpt with the title Beyond the Tortilla Curtain was published by the Utne Reader, September, October 1995. Chicanost, Radio Nuevo Orden, was originally broadcast in 1991. A live performance version is included in the film Naftasek TV, which was produced at Ear Studios at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in 1994. Another version can be found in the audio art piece Menage a Trade, New American Radio, 1994. Same source, and all struggles for the respective life, in all its variants, lead in the same direction. The great project of reform and reconciliation must be, above all, a collaborative one, and all concerned communities must take part in it. According to Native American prophecy, we are in the era of the seventh generation, and we all need to begin sharing our secrets, skills, strategies, and infrastructures. It's about time that politicians, the media, and civic and corporate leaders begin to take note. No effective solution to the multiple crises that afflict contemporary American society can be implemented without the consent and direct participation of each of these overlapping communities. My colleagues and I politely ask you to join in. 18. If I had known, I wouldn't have gone. Columbus. When the world was ours, you took it away from us. When the world was yours, you didn't want to share it. Now that the world is ours again, you are trying to dress and act like we do. What's wrong with you, tools? Moctezuma Jr. Everything is changing and moving so fast that we don't have time to confront our immediate past. Soon everything will be new. EAGAT German psychiatrist. No one or everyone should be named. Moira Roth. Fresh water from Canada and cheap oil from Mexico, all served in an American glass. The perfect free trade cocktail, J. Caramba. Fictional ad by the NAFTA Commission. Too much concept and too little movement. The Washington Post. Mespefia. How would you define Los Angeles? Bob Wisdom. It could be Beirut. Leg could be Utopia. We JJ know next weekend. TS New RI border. Prophicals for the end of the century. The new word border was often described by colleagues and journalists as Chicano cyberpunk art and AT1 point, though many essentialist Chicanos still have a hard time considering. Me, a Chicano, I chose to embrace the definition. In this language-based and highly technified epic performance, I decided to push my border aesthetics, layering and clashing of languages, musical styles, sounds, and images to an extreme. My collaborators and I used 4 sources of pre-recorded and live sound, as well as state-of-the-art technology to mix and filter our voices. We spoke in Spanish, French, English, Spanglish, Frangle, and several made-up Robo languages. The simultaneous translations were purposely incorrect. The idea was to force the audience to experience the cultural vertigo of living in a multilingual, multiracial society. In the NWB, the processes of balkanization that Eastern Europe underwent from 1989 to 1992 are projected onto the United States. Dozens of micro-republics pop up everywhere. The US-Mexico border disappears. Spanglish becomes the official language. The hybrid state is now a political reality. And the ethnic social pyramid has been turned upside down. There is really no plot, nor recognizable characters. The performers on stage are mere media images and virtual reality clones of our own fictionalized identities. Their voices are disembodied, and our actions have become totally ritualized and anti-theatrical. 2021. Of all my proscenium pieces, perhaps the NWB has engendered the most contradictory and extreme responses from critics and audience members. Before the performances, we often utilize the strategy of segregating the audience according to racial and/or linguistic criteria. And people had a very hard time feeling like a minority in their own country, even if only for an hour and a half. But perhaps what created the most controversy was the use of dead chickens hanging on stage as a metaphor for violence toward Mexicans. We were often visited by animal rights activists who objected to our violent actions toward the chickens and vehemently accused us of desecrating animals for art's sake. Once they went to the extent of equating violence to animals with violence to Mexicans. In all cases, we were defended by audience members who ruled the animal rights people that they wished to discuss more important issues. Sometimes performed as a solo, and other times as a duet, first with Coco Fusco and later with Roberto Cifuentes. The NWB toured extensively for 2 years throughout the United States, Canada, Europe, and Latin America, and was performed as part of various international festivals and every performance was different. In each city and country, the piece was redesigned to incorporate cultural and political specificities of the site. This script, as performed by myself and Roberto Cifuentes, is one of at least 25 different versions. Characters, Gómez-Peña as ELAZTEC high-tech. Costume, ritual makeup, mariachi suit, pachuco hat, skull earrings, Aztec chess piece, snakeskin boots, 3D glasses, lowrider glasses, bandana, black gloves, heavy metal bracelets. and an assortment of masks and wigs. Roberto Cifuentes as Super Pocho. Costume, black suit, shirt and tie, mariachi hat, pre-Columbian style facial and arm tattoos, wrestler mask, Caucasian mask, death mask, stereotypical lowrider outfit, optional pre-performance event in the lobby. Super Pocho and El Aztec High Tech enter the theater on their knees. They get up and walk around the lobby with a basket, collecting objects from the audience. Is there anything you would like to give away? Anything you don't really need? Money, IDs, condoms, keys, a poem, a credit card, your pain, your anger? Just be sure you don't need what you're parting with to face the end of the 20th century. Set design, a bizarre radio studio somewhere in the immediate future. The feeling of the space is ceremonial. A lectern stands stage, left. A human skeleton hangs center stage, Christ-like. Various dead chickens hang from the ceiling at different heights. There is a chair downstage right, and next to it is a small table for props. A portable tape player plays Radiorama programs in different languages. A semicircle of candles separates the stage from the audience. New World, 0111. Once the audience is seated, all house and stage lights go out. 2223, New World Border. Gómez-Peña walks on stage, looking angry. He stares intently at various audience members. Then he gelevenly begins doing Hare Krishna chants in Spanglish. He turns on the tape player and sits down in the chair. He speaks in Tongar, mixed with corporate words. Roberto Cifuentes stands motionless behind the lectern, wearing a Ruri Daratiler mask and a mariachi hat. GP noise goes from normal to satanic. I'm sorry, I'm having an identity crisis on stage. Divolata Productions present a UN live broadcast from name of the city where the performance takes place, on date of the actual performance. Miento. This is not a performance, but a cue-to-cue rehearsal. Miento. This is an authentic Indian ritual. Miento. This is a Technotown meeting. Fuck it. This is what it is. Chingao. Hey man, pay attention. The other is talking to you. The Mexican beast has come to get even. Now, let's see how far we can go tonight with only 6 chickens, 1 ghetto blaster, 3 mics, a cheesy voice mixer, a real human skeleton, and a bunch of trinkets bought in El Merced Market and Canal Street. He howls. Prophecy hashtag ITHEFINDESIECLESOCIETY. Music, Chicano rap. GP, low rider, disc jockey voice, suavecito and breathy. Hello, corridos yippies, turistas, voyeuristas, Antrop 6 logos aficionados, perplexed citizens of the end of the century. This is the voice of El Aztec High Tech Broadcasting from the heights of WXYZ-FM, 93 megahertz above reality. I'm the representative of the Liberated Republic of Aslan in the signing of an Accord de Free Cultura among the artistas activistas of the New World Border. Ikin no? I'm here with Super Pocho Dos, El Vato Más Loco de Pacoima, in a promotional tour ACM S the Americas. I warn you, this ain't performance art but pure Chicano science fiction. Eniguies, comenzamos sin translation, cha-cha. Y ahora, nuestro corresponsal en los Estados Unidos. Music, rock by CHILEANGROUP, Los Electros 00 seconds. GP walks toward chicken number 3, then back toward skeleton, mouthing a painful shout. R. Sankerman voice with ECHO. Imagine a new American continent without borders. It's a continent that has become a huge border zone. Think of it as a new world border. We are living in the age of postmodernity, a blistering, festering present. And in these times, all known political systems and economic structures are dysfunctional. They are being reformed, replaced, or destroyed. Many see this as the era of la desmodernidad, a term that comes from the Mexican non desmadre, which can mean either having no mother or living in chaos. The great fiction of a social order has evaporated and has left us in a state of meta-orphanhood. We are all, finally, untranslatable hijos de la chingada. GP French accent. Les enfants de la chingada dada. Music, recorded chants in Quechua. As GP addresses the hanging chicken, RS counts hackward FR, 10 trillions. O. GP, dramatic and slow, to the chicken. Yes, we are linked by imaginary networks. Then, members of a fictional society, no longer defined by ethnicity, ideology, nationality, or language, but by time. 9, 24-25. New word. Yes, the only recognizable parameters of this emerging society are ruptures, such as the fall of the Berlin Wall, the Baghdad genocide, the Louisiana insurrection, the return of xenophobia. 8. Yes, I roam around the shattered puzzle in state of acute appendagemiento. 7. From the noun pendejo, see stupid, and the verb mentir, meaning to lie. Yes, I'm lying to you. Extranjero en tu. Propio país. 6. No, we don't lie together. In the end, we never lie together. Vecinos abismales. 5. Still undiscovered to one another. El outside, el otro sitio. 4. Digo, the murdering of otherness. 3. Es triste tristimo. 500 years later, Columbus and Queen Anacona, 2, still cannot understand each other, each mother. Each madre, kerfuken desmadre, tu honorificencia populi nostri. 0. Music stops. GP, radio evangelist voice, into megaphone. Is this utopia or dystopia? Are we closer to Catholic heaven or capitalist hell? Is this real lie, tie, or performance? Can anyone answer? Can anyone tell me which country we're in? Screaming. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. RS airline hostess voice overlapping with GP. Can anyone answer? Can anyone answer? Continues repeating question every 7 seconds into next text. GP Nasol, old-fashioned Mexican radio voice. Y lo peor del asunto es que Godzilla y El Santo are nowhere to be found, nowhere to be found, nowhere to be found. Blackout. GP goes back to Hyde's chair. Music, HONKYTANGO by ARGENTINEXPERIMENTALGROUPLESOUTIERS. Prophecy hashtag 2. La Gringo Stroika GP puts on holographic glasses and changes his Aztec headdress for a pachuco hat. GP nasal, NERVOUS, and very fast. In the wake of the stormy changes in the ex-Soviet bloc, the winds of Gringostrojka have reached every corner of our continent. Can we still call it ours? Who are we anyway? Geopolitical borders have faded away due to the implementation of a free trade agreement and the creation of an untranslatable Zona de Libre Comercio, the nations formerly known as Canada, the United States, and Mexico have merged painlessly to create the new Federation of U.S. republics. FUSR is controlled by a master chamber of commerce, a Department of Transnational Tourism, and a media junta. The role of the presence is now restricted to public relations, and the role of the military has been reduced to guarding banks, TV stations, and art schools. No semi-astagier. The immediate effects of this integration are spectacular. The monocultural territories of the disbanded United States, commonly known as Gringolandia, have become drastically impoverished, leading to massive migrations of unemployed waspacks to the south. All major metropolises have been fully borderized. In fact, there are no longer any visible cultural differences between Toronto, Manhattan, Chicago, Los Angeles, or Mexico City. They all look like downtown Tijuana on a Saturday night. Slowly, tea earns into drunken voice. The first world, the third world geopolitical distinctions, vestiges of an outdated colonialist vocabulary, have completely overlapped. The legendary U.S.-Mexico borderline, affectionately known as the tortilla curtain, no longer exists. Pieces of the great tortilla are now sentimental souvenirs hanging on the bedroom walls of idiotic tourists, like you. 2627. The hundreds of thousands of Mexican POWs imprisoned for jaywalking in the Southwest have finally been released. Some of them now occupy important government positions. Así es, servidor gran vato. Charriero performándose en ustedes. Pause. Just kidding. Imagine this blackout, issue of blackout, our redneck voice. Hey man, cut this political mumbo jumbo. Do all Mexicans talk like this? Lights come up. The following text is spoken by GP and RS simultaneously. GP, a thick Latino accent, wearing a big smile and clearing his throat. Please check my pronunciation. Spanglish and Gringoyol have been proclaimed official LAN. Guajes, linguas francas. The controversial Spanglish-only initiative that outlawed the use of English in the Southwest in 1992 spread quickly throughout the entire Federation. It's mind-blowing. Televisa, CNN, and CBC have joined to create reality TV, the largest media empire on the planet, in charge of broadcasting the daily New World Orders. Their slogan is, TV or not TV, that is the question. And as if this weren't enough, United, American, and Continental Airlines have given up their hegemony to new and more chingonometric companies such as Mexicanada Airlines and the amazing Alaskan Patagonian Shuttle. Are there any questions? Ars Gringo accent, mistranslating. El Spanglish y el Gringo Fuel han sido proclamados lenguas oficiales, lenguas francas. La controversial Spanglish-only iniciativa que en 1992 prohibisix el uso del inglés en el Southwest, 666 nipida, mente por toda la federación. ES mind-blowing. Televisa, CNN, YCBC, new. 0C. Y como si esto fuera poco, las líneas aéreas de United, American, and 0C. Continental cedieron su hegemonía a compafifas más nuevas y chingonométricas como Mexicanada de Aviación y el sorprendente Alaskan Patagonian Shuttle. ¿Alguna pregunta? Se han unido para crear reality TV, el imperio de los medios de comunicación más grande del planeta. A cargo de transmitir los New World Orders cada día. Su eslogan is TV or not TV. Esa es la pregunta. YRS makes fart noises as the round bed for next text. GP as slow, drunken voice. I, reality looks and feels like a cyberpunk film co-directed by Jose Mart and Ted Turner on acid. And I, little post-Mexican romantic with my permanent poetical erection. Cannot help but to ask out loud, are we closer than ever to Armageddon, or are we merely experiencing the birth pains of the new millennia? RS, sure up, you Chicano-centric pedero, you intellectual drive-by shooter, you theoretical minority. His tone becomes apologetic. Sorry, this pirate radio broadcast has been authorized by the Department of Transnational Tourism. Whiteout, please. Blackout. Prophecy #3. Neonationalism. RS walks down center stage to a table, takes off his roller mask, and prepares a free trade Molotov cocktail while chanting, New World Order, New Disorder, New World Order, Free Trade Arc, Utopia, Utopia, 93, in Aleph Job. The bomb doesn't work. RS walks away, disappointed. Music. German band, Psirupsirovu, 29, 28. GP speaks in multi-megaphone. In Fashu Jawad Fog Tongajes. He wears higher wa, your FM, G Rinkoika, Ridley 1 gram RK, GP ultramultant, voice, WI1 reverb. We witness a resurgence of ultra-oceanalist movements, together with the rise of the new world border globalist rhetoric. Quebec, Puerto Rico, Aslan, South Central Los Angeles, Yucatan, Panama, and Lesthanal, all fleet Indian nations have seceded from the new federation of U.S. republics, independent micro-republics, and popping up everywhere in the blink of an eye. Verbigrada, he right 11J, his right Fiche. The twin cities of San Diego and Tijuana have united to form the Maquilador Republic of San Diego. Hong Kong has Ardocate Lesthanal to Baja California, RN constitute the powerful Baja Kong, the world's greatest producer of pornand, tourist kitsch. The cities of Los Angeles and Tokyo now share a corporate government called J. Epangelis, which oversees all the financial operations of the Pacific Rim. The Republic of Berkeley is the only Marxist-Leninist nation left on the globe. The Caribbean populations of the East Coast, including New York and Cuba York, have merged to form the LN-less Stanley-pendant Pan-Carib nation. They WGL-ellingly accept refugees C from Haiti and Miami. Florida AML Cuba now share a corporate junta that has the cryptic name of Lenin M. Canosa and Asados Yates. The nation city of Mexico DF, Detritus D. Focal, Da Is, now Cal led Tismoctidon, from the Nahuatl announced TSMG, pollution, And Titaljian Place, with its 50 million inhabitants and its 800 square miles, is presently negotiating its independence from the FUSR. GP and KSWHIS PRING FUSR FUSR FWR soundshift clock ticking. A GTR MEO pure formem. Our late plagiarizes Mespefia Duhich 9 Fahrenheits. The TV 1 is more Mhemek 1 from the Jernar Nupat.PirHambu.RGRL FTUGFO post April 11 L99 Rasser neck voice. If you ungraceful greasers don't like it, here, why don't you go back where you came from? GP and RS put 11 TTR Kokasi Mags. RS begins TXC in fur. GP tram 8 Dariel Tachio Jawana 11 into Engli.RHU 1 of French ACMJ. Ars academic voice. Lemois. Dernier won the conference historique sur. La paix. Turtle Caesar pass. Séclans plieurs villes de la frontière du nouveau monde so. Tots zvihes. Ont été connectés par la technologie du vidéo satellite. Bir. Était de commencer le processus duru de reçu de les RC sans paiements interetnico. Citi la history gui ont décrit par le gringos roica. Quo e per l'ancypus importance 1 était établis. Jashi verbatim. 30 Jawan. GP French accent. Last month, the historical multicultural peace conference took place simultaneously in numerous cities of the New World Border, all interactively connected through video satellite technology. The objective was to begin the painful process of working out the interethnic resentments and cross-cultural hysteria created by Gringos Troika. 4 important principles were established. I quote verbatim. GP goes to center.artage, positions a soccer ball, and threats them to kick it into the audience 4 times while sub-vocalizing RS's following text. RSS computer voice. 1. No nation, community, or individual can claim racial, sexual, or aesthetic purity. 2. Beginning in January of 1995, all borders on the American continent will be open. No passport will be required. 3. All nations will operate with only one currency, the mighty peso. 4. Members of monoracial minorities of European descent must be granted equal rights, voting power, and a free multicultural education. Ars French newscaster voice. On a demande atteseres les membres de FUSR d'implémenter CS principies ipso facto. Ceux qui ne veulent pas accepter les règles suffiront un blocage économique. Magister Dixit, Reality TV, kaput. GB, French accent. Translating simultaneously, all members of the FUSR have been asked to implement these principles immediately. Those who do not comply will be punished with embargo. Magister Dixit, Reality TV, kaput. Blackout. RS computer voice. Before we continue with this broadcast, I want everyone to repeat. After me. This is art. Pause. This is not reality. Pame. Come on, let's hear it. The audience follows instructions. Thank you. Gracias. Danke stehen. Prophecy #4. The melting plot versus the menudo chowder. Seated on chair, GP drinks Fromzier rubber heart and changes eyeglasses. RS puts on a blonde wig and freezes in shame. Music, British Hindu rap by Apache Indian. GP changes accents abruptly during following text. GP Pachuco accent. Hello, Raza. This is the voice of Granvato Charliero interrupting your coitus as always. Tonight's broadcast is about migration. Migration, nasal accent. This new society is characterized by mass migrations and bizarre interracial relations. As a result, new hybrid identities are emerging. All Mexican citizens have turned into Chicanos or Mexicamos, and all Canadians have become Chicanadians. Text and accent. Everyone is now a Bordorfgina, meaning a native of the Great Border region. According to Transnational Geographic magazine, 70% of the population in the New World Border is undocumented, and up to 90% can be technically considered mesti mulata, that is, the product of at least 4 racial mixtures. Thick Latino accent. Such is the case of the crazy Chicaricuas, who are the products of Puerto Rican mulatto and Chicanero mestizo parents, and also the innumerable German-Turians who descend from the union of West Germans and Manchurian Chinese, New E0C, 0111D, 1 in city, 33. When a Chicaricua marries a Hasidic Jew, their child is called Hasidic Vato Loco. And when a displaced Belgian marries a Chicano, the offspring is called Belga Chica, which loosely translates as Little Winnie. Among the ultra significantly large half-breed groups are the Anglo-Malans, the Afro-Croatians, and the Japtalians, many of whom I see here tonight. It's lovely and very, very post-Columbian, may I say melting plot. Music. Shamanic yodeling from Panama. GP walks back and forth from the skeleton to a chicken. When he is in front of a hanging chicken, he screams loudly as if he were being tortured. Ars Hepo. He wears headphones. Testing. We replaced the bankrupt notion of the melting plot witch model that is more germane to the times, that of the menudo chowder. According to this model, most of the ingredients do melt, but some stubborn chunks are condemned merely to FL.oat. The Euro-Americans who resisted interracial love became a nomadic minority and eventually ended up migrating south to work for maquiladoras and fast food restaurants. They get paid less than 200 pesos an hour. They are derogatively referred to as Waspanos, Waspitos, Wasperos, or Waspaks. The basic rights of these downtrodden people are constantly violated, and there is no embassy to defend them. This alarming Anglophobia is based on an absolute fallacy chat. They have come to cake our jobs. But the truth is that no hybrid in his or her right mind, including me, would work for such lousy wages. GP, druggy voice. It dreams the chicken. Ay, your past is gone for good. My past is gone for good. Help me. Estoy perdido. RS, interrupting translation please. GP, al norte de un sur inexistente. Me captas cavan fola. Me explico. RS, translation please. GP makes Neanderthal sounds. RS. Angry. Translation, please. GP. Okay. Lexicon despacio número 5 for advanced English speakers. Falsa democracia. RS. Translation, please. Members of the audience begin to answer. GP. Sexual democracia. RS. Translation, please. GP. USA to USA. RS. Translation, please. GP. Censura no es cultura. RS. Translation, please. GP. No. Censura no es cultura. RS. Translation, please. GP. You and Mexicano in name of city in which performance is taking place. Es como un muerto en Alemania o como un gitano en España. RS. Translation, please. GP. Glera moment. Glera. RS. Translation, please. New World 0. 3435. New World Border. GP. Me cago en el gobernador Peter Wilson y en su política se nos explica de mierda. RS. Translation, please. GP says something in tongues. RS. Translation, please. GP. Didactic. Now, let's move to the next stage. Spanish lesson for advanced Spanish speakers. Repeat after me. Los norteamericanos que no aprendieron a hablar español sufrieron una marginación total. No podían encontrar trabajo y en las escuelas multiraciales se les consideraba retrasados mentales. Aquí. Con nosotros en el estudio number 4 de TV Astin tenemos varios ejemplos de BLICKOUT, prophecy #V, the official transculture. GP puts on a mariachi hat and jacket, grabs a machete, and walks towards a hanging chicken. RS puts on a Gómez-Peña mask. Music, Tecolatito by Zazil. GP pulls a pulsating rubber heart from his crotch and drinks blood from it. Then he dances at Jarabe Tapapo drunkenly while trying to stab the Urhican. He misses over and over and ends up falling down. RS's computerized voice. The Federation of U.S. Republic's fragile sense of self is sustained by a government-sanctioned transnational media culture that is broadcast via reality TV, MTV, Radiorama, and Telefax. Its mission is to transmit an idealized and apolitical version of who we are, but unfortunately, it must contend with rebels who operate pirate radio and TV, stations throughout the borderless and still nameless continent. Still, FUSR's experience in overthrowing revolutionary groups has made it clear, chat, the best way to contain rebellion is to for an easier alti. That's why they're undertaking the current campaign of the Amigoization of the North, better known as Operation Jalapeno Fever. This multicultural consumer training project promotes sexy and inoffensive Latino products that range from taco capsules and chili spray to inflatable fritas and holographic naked mariachis. The Jalapeno Fever helps to diffuse the sense of despair and the frantic search for spirituality found in today's society. These efforts mark a drastic change from the early days of the New World Order, when democratically elected fascists like Bells Bush and Margaret Thatcher practiced panic politics via TV in order to maintain a generalized state of fear. Do you remember the war on drugs, the AIDS crisis, the invasion of Panama, and the Baghdad genocide, the 4 most successful miniseries produced by the White House? Well, things have really changed. GP stops dancing and begins to perform harakiri in slow motion. Lights off him. RS, the CIA joined forces with the DEA and moved to Hollywood to create a movie studio that specializes in producing and distributing multicultural utopias. Free trade art can now be purchased by mail order. We can travel across the entire continent in a weekend by visiting an expo. Hybrid pop culture airs during prime time on the main channels of MTV. The hit program Pura by Cultura reaches 500 million homes in 20,000 cities throughout the New World Border. Fusion rock bands that used to be underground now play their punkarachi, disco mecca, and rap wanko at NAFTA functions. Transcontinental Radiorama features audio graffiti art, epic rap poetry, and ethno-muzak 24 hours a day. You'll never get bored, even if you want to. 3637. Are you bored? Why? Too many ideas? Not enough action on stage? Not enough action in your life? Not enough salsa picante on your genitalia? Or are you lost in the immediate future? Chuculero! Soundbed. Taped excerpt of Norte Sur radio performance by COCO, FUSCO, and GP. GP, mouse tape excerpt. America is no longer the continent you imagine. Audio graffiti, FM. Buscando un nuevo lenguaje para expresar sus temores y deseos interculturales. Blackout. New World. 0C. Just moves the action to the garage next door. Those who get whitelisted can no longer get jobs in the Mall of Oblivion. And those who get caught in Fragante are sent to rehabilitation clinics where they are subjected to instant socialization through pedagogic videos from the Spanish verb empedar, meaning to force someone to drink, and the Mayan anagogic OC, a man without a self, like many of you. Music stops abruptly. RS. Cut. Cut. No cute theatrical tricks, Azteca, just be yourself. GP, what do you mean? I am being myself. Prophecy #VI. The barrios of resistance RS. Stop performing. Get off the fucking script. GP puts on holographic glasses and Pachuco hat. Our satanic voice. Good evening, America. Good morning, Europe. In reaction to this official Rand sculpture, a grassroots octopus with 1 million tentacles has emerged from below, and hundreds of small pockets of resistance appear everywhere. Together, they constitute an invisible artistic continent within the New World Border called Art America Sociedad Anima. Tape rolling. Music. Brazilian punk. GP. Lunatic. Nasal voice. In the barrios of resistance, contemporary versions of the old Columbus, every block has a secret community center. There, the runaway youths called Robo Raza 2 or floating greasers publish anarchist laser Xerox magazines, edit experimental home videos on police brutality. Yes, police brutality still exists and broadcast pirate radio interventions like this one over the most popular programs of the official radio Nuevo Orden. These clandestine centers are constantly raided, but Robo Raza. GP, listen, Beto Brecht. This section never worked. We haven't even rehearsed it for months, man. RS, get off the Pinterest script. GP, okay, This is the last time you put me in the spotlight like this. What do you want me to talk about? RS, the art world. You are an expert ikigno, and it better be funny. These poor people are tired of your density. GP, normal voice. Okay. Since the art market collapsed, artists are no longer needed as image makers. Most of them have traded making art for more useful materials. They have become Border 6 logos, experts on border crossing, media pirates, and cross-cultural diplomats. In fact, many of them collaborate in secret with Robo Raza, due to a counterintelligence program implemented by former dictator Belsush that involves state censorship of the arts and funding cutbacks. The Alternative Space Network and the Chicano community centers have also collapsed. 3839. In the absence of alternative spaces, most successful performidors from the Spanglish Pay for Mirror. To piss on your audience, now appear mano a mano with Tex-Mex rockers at extravaganzas staged in abandoned wrestling auditoriums and bullfight arenas like this one. Since reality TV doesn't cover these events, we can say that technically they don't exist. The only thing left from the old alternative culture is a leftist porno channel called Pubic Access TY. It specializes in pornostalgic Marxist soap operas. Unfortunately, since most people have been desexualized and depoliticized, only 0.00001% of the population watches Pubic Access TV. In this sense, they are a real alternative venue. Have the real TV cameras arrived? Screaming, where the fuck are the TV cameras? Dramatic pause for approximately 10 seconds. Censorship has become the main subject of. He subvocalizes to make it appear as if WMU1 is turning the volume off and on. That's nothing you can do about it. Even the artists ourselves have. Fear is the sign of representing a true cross-section of our communities are. El idioma espaciol ha sido el principal OB ars forceful. Speak G! Speak Ofio! Say what you want, Chingao. Get a fucking job. GP can't speak, experiences pain, and begin to cry in frustration. Blackout. Prophecies 7. The new paganism. Lights on GP and RS. GP does a meditational Om chant, then makes the Moko sign, Mexican hand signal that means fuck you to the audience. RS fake sin surgi. Please stand up, hold hands, and feel the wisdom of the maestro in your genital chakras. Breathe in, breathe out. GP, chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Wad, Hare Nalga, Hari Nalga. Repeats 3 times. Music, Mexican New Age. GP, Mexican wrestling referee voice. As Protestantism and Catholicism collapse due to their inability to adapt to the big change, we witness a revival of pagan religions. New hybrid deities are being adored by the confused masses. He grabs a wooden snake and begins to tame it. Tezcatlipoca, Mexican god of urban wrath, is becoming very popular in both Aztlan and Tezmactitlan. Funcohuatl, the Aztec divinity of funk, has been crowned as the holy patron of Califas. Aging pop star Madonna has reincarnated as Saint Frida Kahlo. She roams around the nasty streets of Mexa York in search of people who suffer from identity blisters and heals them. Chichicolgatzin, the Guru Isa of strippers, is the spiritual avatar of a new age sect from Colorado. Krishnahuatl, the Aztec god of karma, is revered across the entire federation of U.S. republics where thousands of high-tech ashrams infested by world-beat Gringo Stannis and Gringo Farians provide the 10 steps to clarity for a modest amount. A techno shrine to Juan Soldado, holy patron of border crossers and migrant workers, now stands on what used to be the San Isidro border checkpoint. With multi-image projections and 25 video monitors, the old border saint reminds people of what was once a common, yet dangerous experience. GP and RS are in syncopated rhythm, the crossing from the third to the first world. From the past to the future, remember. El Cruce, El Bordo, El Abismo, El Sismo, La Migra, the spiderweb, the TV cameras, my old performances, your oldest prejudices, the original migration, your great Mojado grandparents. Remember? Blackout. New. 0100 and 11,111 0. 20111 division. 111 Derheden. Prophecy hashtag V8th. Culti art. GP squats under chicken number 4, chanting in tongues. He puts on a wrestling mask and boxing gloves and prays to the chicken. RS wears a cardboard Lendian mask. Soundbed excerpt from NORTE's UR. RS and GP subvocalizing with tape excerpt. Yaqui, Siri, Guaycura, Digueyo, Barona, Seminole, Comanchero, Tuscarora, romantic dots on tourist maps. Romantic words in empty ears. Cambio de canal. Latin muzak begins. RS rings a bell. GP stands up in boxes with hanging chicken while repeating compulsively, I'm beating the Mexican out of myself. RS a computerized voice. Art about identity is now a dignified form of nostalgia. Nearly every important city in FUSR has a museum of culte multicultural art. They all feature classic shows from the 80s, and before as a reminder of what culture used to be before Gringo Skreka destroyed all traditional borders and categories. Among the most popular traveling exhibits are 1,000 ex-minority artists, the best of Chicano fundamentalist painting, 1968 to 1992, Triple Oppressions by Mexican and Handicapped, and of course the new show at the San Diego Maquiladora Museum of Contrived Art entitled Chic Anglo Art on the Borderline. Just last month, a very controversial show opened at the Museum of Lost Identity in Los Angeles. Entitled Klepko Mexican Artists of Che or Licey, it includes 30 major Anglo-American painters whose iconography mysteriously resembles that of their Mexican contemporaries. Bell rings. GP stops boxing and freezes, then lights off him. RSM Arte, a collective of Frito-worshipping feminists, picketed the show's opening to protest the lack of Anglo women included in the Klepto Mexican panorama. They all wore body casts and pierced their chests to dramatize their sense of victimization. GP takes off wrestler mask, puts on Caucasian mask, and sits in his chair. Lights on him. RS takes off his mask and puts on a blonde wig. GP French accent. Every now and then, these outdated museums present token Eurocentric shows with insensitive titles such as the Europass Vanguard, Neo Geo, a post-industrial folk and land and body art, early Gringo tribalism, minimalist sculpture, Protestant art in an agnostic society, and the young German expressionists, an endangered species. But these kind of shows are poorly attended and don't seem to perform any real community function other than fulfilling the extravagant whims of iconoclastic curators. Two pose Chicano antropologos, Richie Liu and Bobby Sanchez, are currently organizing a blockbuster exhibit entitled X-Splendors, Years of White Art, but they are facing tremendous opposition. Minority artists are faulting them for ghettoization and tokenism. RS barks during X paragraph. GP, neurotic gringo accent. No one can escape this wave of reverse racism. A critic from the minority paper, the New York Times, just accused Super Pocho and I of Latinocentrism for not having included waspacks in this show, but the fact is that their work is simply not good enough. Have you had similar experiences? 11,100 and 11 to 111. 4243, misspelled Spanish. Yo no entender un carajo de por qué la mayor fue dominante de color negro, café, or amarillo tenemos que. Shit, normal voice. Cut. I don't like this take. It's racist. Let's do it again. Cameras 1 and 2 rolling down your psyche. Hacia el fondo y el cansancio. Blackout. RS takes off wig and jacket and walks towards center stage. Prophecy 9, the Mafias. GP puts on bandana and dark glasses and lights a joint. During next text, RS turns into a gang member and begins to desecrate a chicken. He covers his t-shirt with chicken blood. RSS tourist guide voice. Latinophobe, polyglotophobe, ecoracist, crypto-nationalist, techno-puritan. Define yourself. GP satanic voice. Fear of uncertainty generates sectarianism. Therefore, mafias are forming everywhere. Their members used to be part of the cultural elite during the Belsbush years. Though extremely different from one another, these mafias share one objective: to cling to the past in order to experience an optical illusion of continuity and order. The following are some examples. Note that they still utilize the old nomenclature to name themselves. Soundbed. Animal sounds, cats, dogs, cows, pigs, roosters, and sheep. Archidactic. Please raise your hands as your group is being mentioned. New Zero. Tech post-colonial art and organize symposiums with other members of. 0A. TGAC from Utope. Their criteria for inclusion are very strict. They don't let me in because my Mexican mustache and my hippiteca ponytail reveal an obvious lack of sophistication. Are there any members of TGAC here? Both WWEO, White Women Experts of Otherness, and MGW, Multicultural Gabachos from Wyoming, claim they're solely responsible for the liberation of the veterans of LVR, leading victims of institutionalized racism. This group was formed by the elite members of the various ex-minority groups who won victim competitions at the Multicultural Olympics of 1992. The violent members of SWGAA, straight white guys are all right, couldn't bear the big change anymore and went underground. Some people speculate that they asked for political asylum in Germany and England, but to their surprise, they found even more people of color over there. The members of CRF, Chicken Rights Palanche, a radical wing of the deceased animal rights coalition of the early 90s, roam around theaters and natural history museums, picketing events like this one. Would you please raise your hands? Composed of ex-Sandinista poets in exile, the Berkeley-based LCS, La Cosa Santa Nostra, survives by selling political kitsch and meditational revolutionary CDs. Ojo, we must not mistake this mafia with Los Sandalistas, which literally means those bearded gringos with plastic Indian shoes. The members of BAL, Born Again Latinos, defend a distinct Latino identity at a time when essentialism has been outlawed by the state, and they are very militant about it. They are suspected of the recent bombings of several museums of multicultural art. GP continues while RS defines the groups. The elite of the artists of color of my generation formed a group called TGAC, THINAP, Gorgeous Artists of Color. They make high. A4445, New World. Ease Greater, Thansakret, Brotherhood of Chela, Chicano Aristocracy. Believe that Adam and Eve were the first Pachos and are the chosen race. Their leader, named Verman, is on row for conspiracy co-overthrow the New World Border. Located in the Independent Republic of Harlem, RAN, the real African nation, claims that the entire African continent sold out, and it is no longer African enough. This organization must not be confused with the other RAN, the real Aztec nation, which is a group of UCLA anthropologists who swear they have the one and only secret to the Aztec way of life. The untranslatable Tejuditzin, zero mejor dicho, mejor me cala. I turn off my internet radio. GP grabs a machete, walks toward the hanging chicken, grabs its head, and decapitates it while saying, chick, in, oh, no, Chicano, power. He raises his right fist. Blackout. Finale. The performers grab two chairs and sit on the edge of the stage with brown bags covering their faces. Slowly, all house lights come up, pre-recorded voice. The performance is finally over. Now, would anyone like to spend the night with a sexy, AIDS-free third-world performance artist for only 25 pesos? Free TR80 sex, the ultimate border experience. Please, feel free to walk on stage and touch them, lick them, smell them, but don't go too far unless you are willing to pay the piper. The Mexican male on the right weighs 75 kilos and loves German cinema. Although still undocumented, he has been, blessed by a MacArthur Genie Award. The younger Chicano on the left plays soccer with Central American refugees, speaks French, and makes a mean enchilada. They are not trained actors, but they have great imagination and charisma. Go for it. Don't be culeros. Silence. Loud Mexican rock and roll suddenly breaks the dramatic tension. The audience begin to applaud. Some people walk on stage and touch the performers. Eventually, GP amp, RS stand up and take the bags of their heads. The end. 4647, New World Border. JFLCMS, J from Azertown, one sib Credo. WS from Aslan Laserd. You turn on your. Imagine for a moment a continent turned upside down. TV and see a Chicano anchorman, his face covered in pre-Columbian tattoos, looking at you intently. He begins to deliver the news. Good evening, Choliza, Roberaza, and white minorities. This weekend has been a particularly intense chapter in the young history of Aslan Liberato. At the top of the news tonight, 35 Mexican citizens have been executed by Anglo gang members. In an act of random violence, 2 unemployed corporate executives walked into a luxurious Taco Bell bistro and fired upon the peaceful fajita-eating customers. Today's headline in the minority paper, the New York Times, reads, "Blood and guacamole all over the walls, a macabre scene." The police have surrounded residential East LA to block the entrance of angry gringo mobs protesting poor salaries and police brutality. The governors of Chihuahua, Sonora, and Baja California have issued a formal complaint to the Huaspenos in the West Bank who venture illegally into Mexican territory, bringing dirt, disease, drugs, prostitution, and automatic weapons with them. Anglo mercenaries, ex-members of the defunct U.S. Army in cahoots with various skinhead tribes, continue to attack several Chicano cities in the Southwest. 72-73. The political wing of the Anglo Liberation Front, the former Republican Party, has finally gone underground. Subcommandants as Buchanan and Gingrich are demanding amnesty for all political prisoners, shakeoral restoration of white supremacist TV programming, and the immediate reopening of all Protestant temples. Their communiques in response co the upcoming Pacoima trial, also known as the Raza Tribunal, which begins next week. 117 gringo war criminals will be processed by a select jury of 2,000 homeboys and ex-migrant workers. The defense attorneys are protesting the lack of Anglo representation on the jury. The most sinister war criminals include Pico Wilson, Harold Azell, head of narco citizen group SOSA, and Daryl Gates, alias El Puertas. They are accused of rounding up over 10,000 Mexicans and confining them in concentration camps euphemistically called juvenile halls and inns detention centers. Gates and Wilson are currently being extradited by the Argentine government. Archbishop Matias has declared all Catholic churches sanctuaries for illegal WASPACs in defiance of repanic politics of Califas' Governor Molina. Last week, Molina issued an order to begin deporting all insubordinate gringos who don't carry the national identity card. She stated at a press conference held at Hotel Fiesta Aslan, translation into English, all Mex Americans must stick together in these chaotic times and make sure that the illegal tax-evading WASPACs don't continue to drain our economy and take advantage of our medical, educational, social, and cultural institutions. She clarified, this is not reverse racism, but mere financial pragmatism. I must say, she's got a point. After all, 30 million Vacos can't all be wrong. For ABC Television Nacional Bilingi.e, this is El Naftasika Servidor fumigating your post-colonial dreams. New World 0, 7475, NWE0, 0C7. Prenewally those pro-NCRCs which Arnak Plar, TN, LJFL, CXN, Olside, UFTHF, Art World, PNB 11 Celsiuses, Places, Historally RH, RGCD, Biljimji, and Manernans, Shopper and Dashi Malls. And Erdo.ohon, to the M1.1 SCOM, 1BC, R Greater Thampak Air, thus which were Pedormos Stanel within Rehoundrix of THT, R World Mia, D the Gallery, Pace, TSA, Fictional Osia.shen, and Lade, Ahi Tuol, into RL Zone, Kolohio, 0 AM's Post-Kolat Lao Nightmares, a chronicle of performance projects, 1979 to 1995, LI 11-1 Uchazi U Tixi Kolonalil, Re, Membek of MLL.Tipu, Kof MW JTix, and 1B born 1 mile, less than Cyrener. Of many, Lesefenses. Tilti my members of my gem Raimon LY, Differel Ninti else, makes LT Differti and T Timsi, WD Samtimai, more than 1 AR 01 Kessi, TL Fageriously, LN Actiest, TRTJT, a border pirate, Kuandan, or Il Cross Culture, Il Kunizalan R Jeplern, Trillion, performing the R, Darin Porari, Avi, C Hang G roll NF Reven, A and Darin Policer, XP Chimes Linguist, 11 da Lieutenante da Nalil Kram CLCR, and Reformon within the Anti-TSEACC's Cultural in Turian. In my art, I expose the Ashtar Labyrinth of Identity, the Inti.RC tenor of HR Act, and the Precipice of Ruminaty.Boonhour. My P. Ishe and my PT performance stage are X-rays of Ray Comican map, and my body is at times a laboratory for XP. Runen.Ishin, or JN Exotics PC Shernian on Dasfly, a pagan creature DT bat, in Berwin Martyrdom and Tranda Sendike, or a monster Ruby N DCC Med, and 1 Fahrenheit NCNSRA destroyed. I've embarked 11, a long-term PM Gen. Row Maker Demel Sli less than. Litem NRNL yet Missila Art, co-work in Politicol, Mod Onau, Sharp TD Sites and for Diver. The Audi 11 Cs. And 2 Wes WF Abonte Eltos. Ra. Gender. A11DH boundaryless then. AI. Attitude of dues and diplomacy. My V.org makes sense only in relation to Ralov RN, Kol Kaguko, Vitros. Many Diemjern, borders together, and in DLTing Owiri, UUT, Wanetadi. Our die J, Nitty, Odd Samkon.ims, our lives. JNRHR do a root of my performing work, I have TeachMRN to outline. 80. The Loneliness of the Immigrant, 1979. A few months after my arrival in Los Angeles, I spent 24 hours in a public elevator, wrapped in Indian fabric and tied into a bundle with rope. I was unable to move or to talk back. My total anonymity and vulnerability seemed to grant people the freedom to confess intimate things to me, things I didn't want to hear, to verbally abuse me, and to kick me. I overheard 2 adolescents discuss the possibility of setting me on fire, a dog peed on me, and finally the security guards threw me into an industrial crash can, where I spent the last 2 hours of the day. To me, this piece was a metaphor of painful birth into a new country, a new identity, Chicano, and a new language intercultural performance. I quote from my performance diaries. 2 seconds, a new immigrant. I hope this piece will help to transform imaginative views on immigration. In one way or another, we all are or will be immigrants. Surely one day we'll be able to crack this shell, this incommensurable lone limb, and develop a transcontinental identity. As part of the same series, I lay for 12 hours on the streets as a homeless person, as an expression of the despair and loneliness felt by a newly arrived immigrant. Despite the fact that I was wrapped in a zarape and surrounded by candles and various personal belongings, most people ignored me. I discovered that as a Mexican and as a homeless person, I was literally invisible to California's Anglo population. In my next performance, I felt compelled to scream at the top of my lungs over the Los Angeles skyscrapers, "Deal with me, lamb here TSD. Fucking deal with me. See my people all around you. See yourself in me, in my people, in our collective pain. Deal with us. We are here to stay." Spanglish poetry reading in a public bathroom, Cal Arts, 1979. This piece was another attempt to bring performance and language into unusual contexts and to disrupt people's sense of the quotidian. For 24 hours, I sat on a toilet and read aloud epic poetry describing my journey to the United States. Whoever happened to come into the bathroom for whatever reason experienced the piece. Through this and other experiments of its kind, I became interested in the notion of performing for involuntary audiences. Mexiphobia, Post-Revolutionary Situations, 1980. Most Americans perceive Mexicans through the distorted lens of Hollywood and the stereotypes of pop and mass culture. To them, we are mythical creatures who inhabit a landscape of fear and desire. In 1980, I was busted by the LA police for looking suspicious, meaning for being a Mexican. I began to experiment with New World, 0A, 8283, U1LWL FTTU K, 1 trillion, WRC, 1 trillion, PLS, Elblestanjut KXKI, TND, TT, Zerno, 5 trillions, Li 11 DRBL, Rachar and Ryan TFF and IH, 6, IW, Polar, Elda 7 seconds, 1E, Function D, Ami IHE R RIHET 11 at 11 seconds 1 Celsius, 1 LR nest 11, Orier. Eleventies of RYP, Eichel, DNG, RLP, NLR. Legione Elfons, I honed, Ban DI, Dalsis, Roldaria, WL1H, Warfazes Covi 7, HBL, TRNA, Ur Il minus 1, INV, Falayu, LF1, JONA, Kez, We WLC 1, BCWC, ITONE, W1 to low SCH, Bitolai, DR, the LTTC yachts, PT, OEC, L minus 1U, TFTC, DT5 trillions at 1 era, 1, JT dry, DL, A, TK, Latino, UNORI, DOTC, IHT, PFAU, CMPRN, UT, JCBN THT, M. Anil or M11 arrival, TF, OMT, MJ triless, then 1, 1 foot GI 111 DR ONA F odd glestamless, then Z, hell it OP or Li dot or Mavin, less than an LT, N minus 1, CL, 1, 110, P on multi ultal, out EXPM MLF, PO, EI, I Flinetti.ca 1981 to 1984. 19ND 1 ticks whole 1 minus 1 LM NAR J Jones FOCM 1 San 11 or DUZI dot 11 minus 1 EZ minus 1 Qs Olt dasavity nitium less than F1OY for Orpsy less than IOM RHT PMSH. Reading a sentence C6 grams 1 or 111 USN and D1001 hour all FNF J11 trillions RANT RLC not FMM THT GRK greater than free I MJ ET IA1 M ID S mists of RNLW and newly RI newly ML Rao for Lucerne McRick 1 LO Ni 1 Fahrenheit the middle fullest than MD Kawan B Kund by 11 L 11 LD loner LHIZ Zide 11 31.1 greater than Foem and T Bre 11 W D Clopus 11 DTL L1 Nenua CS Siona Olive Emelin Albenlin R1 Minuteta HLC RNN GDNT RNL Menj Wook 1 NetR MD 11T Ralk Rekas YHEN W W Plort TLL M1 IU11 01 GCowing TLI RD CRM QJRN IDBR 11 DNC Hrinken 8 FIM ICLD Ike LSU LDTE Isilcand of AO1 EGA MMRNE BMTU ITTC Howland Atone Nation Unity and OMRI 11 E OF TH1 trillion done. Less than Tur 1 Lay in Doni Fakmedin and Minkemtel 1 hour CTT Del Dion L Tam J Oliol and multiple 1 Dentide J Ipone J Nestan DMW BL Imuray MRI RI RHC United Straight Megaworth RIIJ DI or Mir lying LTTLCMBI RNTA Ultra 11 1 billion dot in trillion 1 tie less than 11 feet LD 1 hour U1 LRTIWL STEMIL LNF W PTR tar CCL by done RWN CLD dot minus 1 min PC defi 1 UD in Lelstru dot 1 HR Elsoj ehistory at T TA111. CI. Alizar D, TH, JS, null, that, UNL. HT Proes, Jaidu, Inuiult, R, might, I, PL, JR, N. T, mim with OTB, RP less than, PKOA, less than gal, LR, Livy Leveni, I and A, Mnard, Fome, Rich, Wiggly, OTNCR, MC, U.US, U, LKVTR, left Mexia. FAIHMs, Y, less than artist. Basis Ujedicas, we, HC 11 and RNR, HL, FLLTHDOU, Coluisi, Uridli, NI, Arsa Formel, OCC as SLTACT, Thread, Limike, Intlage, Lone, RJ, MLFMM, OR2, when US parts of WAD or Reono are personal no, RT, Rayu, of Run, with film andal VRdless than IJCWR, Mengu, DUT, Dar 4L, Dinet, MDE, Lone, Temunen, T greater Thanon, of it, AT&T and Lin Ratum, 1TXU, JL, JDPL, Friville, S, 11N, WPC, Delestan Jalo, D, 11 CL Sire Rimin, 1.Y LR, ACC, Pa, Reless than, Men, Yend, 11 Ray 2 Tron, 76 UFTTN, L1, LW, 1, Nike or Null, 1, DA, Mo, MW, 111 it, N.U.1E, and idol P1IN, 11 feet, LCJ.Pergen Curd Wufferl greater than, Plat WFR BDI, T de N, a headed tat, I, T, 1, Inoculus than Dal, 1, BN Hyphen Leering, I less than Kohal or Lee, of Sleep, S5, if L line 3. If I CR, SPCN less than line 6, MTLN RH, Honor on YouTube pay performing mainly IU, Oris Lofo, ARID, I11 TBC, R less than, Puxus Regic, RN the TAWRN, Iceland Del, GN Border RCGWN, JNDR1 trillion art, we FC on MLIDC, L Terrain Row Explore Intenu, I Rural Onadium, our, L were R, Volcani more, overtly penalitic. 11. V he, 1 TUM, THT, Board AR, Relas, Thanamguk, VF Recycling, Border RNLR, NRT is BF N.Turk, LLC, if Raid M10NT, IDCJ, W1 second to Bringy, TEDx.TL, PCR4.TLNE, IMCTR, RI, into Orality R, Morip INTT, O image from 111 to Performant, CMIL, HDPCI, 1 Ehodo mural, a P, R LT Shin, T Consaprin, U Russell, Erd, A, VDX P to 1 J Entang, NRM Iln Tracker New 4 to 1 Mag is me, THM RR 105 Foreman, in NB1 Celsius Chronevat MCL RLIOT Valut, the VDVT, Hall NFM L011 Running J, since the Moan took greater than I have NCN told.T-bomb TMWTDI VD Repumer, FRT, greater thom TGUM, FIL.NL with Jorg TMD, View Rule, T provide, TNN 11 Celsius LNTTR, and UAU 19 FL, EHC 1N by JL Hilp LKT 111 Lumensonen, TRM 11I 1FS, Onend, Forest of Mr. PT Formants, and IDER R, Shark Arfers Ari, JBay MQRTT them, payment known, on VCL VCT and the TR DIN, Mal Ronyansar art greater than style. The process is every matter of FKT, the more I pay, the better TFI painting is per TED. The jury LI or 1 Hayut, Erikwand, or OPLNing, but Doni Jira kick nut of my part CHRMT.on greater than, my NVTB meant WL at SCCN, Cipro Valve CRAR, STCNs from Dilcon Billion, CC11, J Low the idea of Portiandi Curry TRN, Elroki Mariug, the Decred TCMPKs, F high R, the ID L of 1 bitten VDVet art and RC context UCD. It eyes tourist artifact it the C Coran Gal try or the DT Hoj Institute for greater thans, rearts, sig greater thar X MPL, I greater than imply honor all co. B X1 HT paintings H1 and 1 UG U Welsing die 10 from a Van Gogh or 1 David Sale, 1 Samshoff Frel is Ika Vindiaki Teld B7 Border Arts Workshop Teller de Arte Fronterizo 1984 to 1990. In 1984, a group of Chicano, Mexicano, and Anglo artists got together to form a binational arts collective, BAWTAF. Our objective was to explore U.S.-Mexico relations and border issues through performance, video, installation art, and experimental poetry. We proclaimed the border region a laboratory for social and aesthetic experimentation, and proposed the artist as a social thinker and binational diplomat. Similar activist groups formed in other parts of the country, i.e. Grand Fury, the Guerrilla Girls, LAPD, etc. It was the spirit of the times. Performance, political activism, and community concerns were completely intertwined. In addition to art exhibitions, bilingual publications, radio programs, and town meetings, BAWTAF organized performance events right at the border where the U.S. meets Mexico at the Pacific Ocean, literally performing for audiences in both countries. If the U.S. Border Patrol came too close, we crossed to the Mexican side, and vice versa. During some performances, we invited our audiences to cross row the other side illegally. We exchanged food and art illegally, caressed and kissed illegally across re-border fence, and confronted the Border Patrol in character. We were always protected by the presence of friendly journalists and video cameras. The political implications of the site and the symbolism of our actions garnered immediate media attention and, as Robert Sanchez said, took us from the calendar section to the political section of the papers. In 1988, Emily Hicks and I staged a performance wedding on the borderline. The media labeled the event a masterpiece of symbolic politics. BAWTAF also did work in art spaces. These strictly artistic activities helped to legitimize our more activist work and protected our collective back. Two projectors come to mind. In La Jolla Museum of Contemporary Art, 1987, BAWTAF transformed the gallery into a bizarre border house. The floor, walls, and roof were slightly crooked with video monitors for windows. On the dining table, instead of food, we served news, video. Monitors under the plates played collages of sensationalist news about Mexico. The objective was to express how fear of otherness defines most social and cultural transactions between the two countries, and yet how Mexico is so present and so much a part of California's everyday life. In early 1989, at Artist Space, New York, members of the workshop created several installations. My favorite was Robert Sanchez, a macabre ritual space with containers of pesticides and fertilizers, red flowers, and ultraviolet lights. It was a direct reference to the fields of California. The idea was to create a beautiful, meditative space, which was also dangerous, to reveal the contradictions of a utopia built with the blood and sweat of migrant workers. In 1990, most of the original members left the workshop and a new group was formed. 1. Documented, undocumented, 1986 to 1987. While a member of BAWTAF, I was also doing solo pieces and collaborative projects with other artists. In 1986-87, Emily Hicks and I created a series of Sire-specific performances titled Documented, Undocumented. We were playing with the terms double application, both to immigration status and to an ephemeral art piece. The characters in this series were constantly walking that line back and forth. The performances were staged for the camera and documented in photojournalistic style. In the following photo, for example, a Latin American general in exile somewhere in La Jolla or on Coronado Island performs for his inner ghosts and troubling memories. The actual site of the performance was in a house right next to a military base in Imperial Beach, California. One for more information on BAWTAF's border performances. See the two catalogs published by the Centro Cultural de la Raza, San Diego, New, 1111. 3, 01111, 88, 89, Tijuana, Niagara, 1988. In 1988, Emily and I spent a month on a performance pilgrimage, working along the U.S.-Canadian border between Ontario and New York State with AR Park as our base of operations. We traveled in a mobile temple made of suedo indigeno, souvenirs and religious kitsch purchased in both Tijuana and Niagara Falls. We carried our 15 performance actions such as auctions of border art. Border art must be auctioned. Spiritual console tachyons for tourists. Photo sessions which authentic border shamans and witches begging for money in costume. And broadcasting bilingual poetry with a huge megaphone from one shore of T. Niagara River to the OT, her. We were commenting on the commodification of ethnicity by RE tourist industries of border towns. During that period, my collaborators and I staged many other performance pilgrimages in different U.S.-Mexico border cities. 0 ICJ. CL. Emily Hicks and G6 Mane. Pea in Tijuana, Niagara. Photo by Biff Hendricks. From the Rise Documented Undocumented. Photo by Henri Witkowski. 91. 1. The Lurth of Lorder Brujo. 1988. Once, PCC forms ANSI Artist Hug. Sanchez and I cross the Hoarder Donek Poron Trillion LN CRN TMLT. IW. Greater than CLS Glastana 1. Second one Hey. Ron Dollar. FLNO Financh. HL Go as LPA, carrying a stone slab made out of papyrmata THC on his back. After an hour-long interrogation, we were fearfully allowed MTO, the United SRNT, then we W1L KCDD approximately ITCN killed Amarades from San Isidro to San Diego's Balboa Park. That night, Hugo and I did a performance in which we extonange. You were identified. For 1988, low 199.2, I attempted to cross the border in Kazum Street, virile TCMEs. J was rejected 3 rhymes, and those rejected personae never found their way I my prefer 111s. VCR form, I less than, monologue, FTT, TH, space, RMM. Vomsi nurse, less than E of H, SPC, Raj C, Gómez-Peña, 115, Akulcon, Morel Tran, Veset, IC, Hachu 11 greater than, 92, I, TLW, M, NT, RT, L9, HFL, I99, L, JJY 19 Phi, Ether, USILT, U, PTR Fern less than 11 trillions, 11 become, N, Ilrcificla, L, ANCL, TTLMI, LG1, PLCX, Char, WR, NNT, KD, ROCT, BC, KTL, right greater than BAIC, THF, Suit W, I Loteth, Lauguai, Lieutenant D, MD, highly Polion, ICT, DCR formal Imlog, NMVT, MN, R, LGZFM, IJI, NRN, Dil J, Mohilti, 1 Bor, Teogran, Fiero, ONI, Ululastenal, Trione, Easel, WNHIHT, TLTM, Roj 11, Nenefitiog, Uro, Simone, SWDL, it's A1 meter, Anglais, I11 Celsiuses, CWOK, Arnold, 2PRL. Psi Lenvend, TTCH, V1101, 1U, CMXT of R, Donor, M, Lear Eichert, R Deltion, and RND10. Proteus BTTJ.U, RIFE, RHI, J1 for Nunt, BChem 11A, TRI, Celtic outlet 2 th 11 Fahrenheit 1 lol lo greater than PN Rowan donet JCB word KKFFine odorol reshvani wine 2 1 second Dooney CNCO non Joel of an Arn alone das 1 DSRU D up WMCJ Jans Myriest Stinity appear Juran GCH is L greater than or WJ as Hordar Relavenio 1 Mule 3 Runigual MNN Oi Uguk Jelly 11 grams 1er IDT or DR till B or DR ISI which is P2 LBCRN me Migra IRN LTL 11 Norman ARCIH I Sren WYT Dallas OUTL 1JNMD Gum 5 from CMU 01I ANGC ICA ILRN far a little DBBIC 11 show R1 D111D CDOM CZ MUNI RI 1 OMLD Ilhatatelis then LTL.A elevented for 11 11 J 11 ULVNI LPI 11 R NL JLH 11 IB less than 111 R1 lone AJW LLRYIO IRR for 11 N Umrian R were we double world 1U or 1A1 Brunei Tetter TTRR of CHT LFSL 111 DPRN ALT PKC TB FLT 11 less than JND 1 Fin I11 NJCJ up back AR the LJS $1 Bor MWTKD TMT.operati intermar RT JMage.S Prup and customerless then RNTU CCH F I'm 1 foot Burr this unknown 2T 1J FFJ11 MJIN1 S11D T greater than O'Neill a P R11 Ru no TNT Ron D1 111er I if LLFO MC TXTL Renly Talus then Daichimin.able then when Rousens or JF Prod MTD Pyre Latirnanked TS DI less than we RHF row 70 111 Rai Pelistanjpo who felk RHE MMNFO 1 1 FT Rai the Tav Os THT R Terforma Dal less than Margrader than 11 Oligon trillion N 1 OVT Mon JT HT C FJ T51 Mal Ram or WTD1 Trid 11 trillions greater than 1.1 1 Eller Dork El Baution Fahrenheit dot Inyoni dot rear U Econoton second and I JF if light J FDTJR ma'am less than LA LHC Fit HDU USU letter CLR UV RWP P1 dot on bless than on R Steve up Medi and Sha dot and CC1 arcing LT was Rim MDU M ancient known DSC SE Darcy gating the all Stanley's new O1J1 minus 1995 in 1990 IHF 3 and 11 ML LTI BMRW trait Ildirit O Fusco FJSF Fit Pro Leudolrin Tonauer L992 Tilney INCJ the Q Whirl Theater LWT Introdule less than LTH perform 11 TRNG of less than 111I T less than A less than IC MC ICD Sishi Theater Miling Ulus Crescem to PCR Marti Yegri will be Genef Thalini R1 now BA Rounge 1 minute none Brion C Ru 5 DNJ 1 minute Ropo 1T 1 Jona V 11I Politi Alion Alk Slesten Mon 1 I'm 1 Embers NF RH NK RNI non CLC Image NT Yud Loni Yonegu Hilondon NTT Rut RNLK Wood TJC Altowe MMRC CL 1 LCR Fayin NDCO RNKT CHC Bestial at 1 JRHTR 11 meters S RWR GJ Bilantua less than level greater than LC NRCR LR1 and Immigración Unt I less than T Ol THL Don owner nil HRFI R NN the ORHF RFVR and INL minus owner Al R and I lay with WMCJ T greater than B E to item die less than Euro T SFIHT T lit tillet Promfil G odd MCT MCMB Darstosi who coddled on DCR T111D Donald I Arlom I will CXR JNJ 1111 HFF Omar Suriyef Tejas Felt TM or double T ILT Didener 1 FL FL Ligel I11er TPP 11 DFQL Dalar Alzir searing the IHOW JR Leochel WTLTLE made THVOT LWTs minus 1 DHR 1 jail Elton Gnome goal NGN Fed CX clutter MCI marginalized the IC WSTT 1 trillion Duan LFNICMI Sensor Ulrith we WR Alistanel occupy me CHC Derati.on FRHCPT RLLT loss done trillion live RNR and 1 gram on linua 111 100 and 1D 111 less than 11 LRNRA Amric 100 2 fo like outside the Stanlers Benaritone U less than U11 VNCO Rye greater than FVTL if 11,111 greater than Tyner HUR or ROO. R, NDCR, Saint, I, Dida, BL, TRTL, KET, I, Infuyatal, UTH, less than 1, I, High, L, NWWUU, Boidler, F, II, Corolern, Misty, Softero Feet.
Sure.
L, Ditchless, then R, L, Forta, Form, An, at HTL and NL, PNS1, SRC, DLLC, 1 foot, Go in Celsius, AGN, 1 MP, Olo, County Ol, Randolph, LM, E11, G greater than LC, Tie, RLI, Live, and Pyramid, NFL, S, MCRR, generated, I, VI, RI, TNT, Dynami, among Cheech, Auclairn, C, MLMBCF, at the NJ of T, P, T form, Dataner, we Woolus, Thanalu, T, Zeus, U, which UFCT and Run greater than MW, A, very HT, UID, T, LWN, MC Ting, PCR for Mox, PSR for Mati, Intemplas Analogy, TH Guatanui, World Tour, 1992 to 1993. In 1992, Duriog Tate, HC, ATD, Columbus, Lestanal, Backed, Arm, FNSC, Lestange. Dodell decided Roraminth, the UNRCD, SM.T, and Burrup of the MHT or he dot row core of IMCN, and Alert Performance, THT, Hamayan, R, XADM, Scudoifnugrai.phk, DBLT, AMC, V1, Voltem, Anu, Hili, In, Johnny Migarich R were so Pilevenpu at Lar and Terpfium T, LRH Ruri, LTLV, 20th CC Merv, Anti-R Bat and TH, LJ, I, EOLVCD into Nenior Vulgar Dasiorn, Selevench Clyde Dime Musf, double N, and Ra, 11, Rekak Shell, 111 feet. In all, JCS, THTN, EMS Wills Limmel, Othamir, Pergia Relemev, WRE1, HJBI Eld, 1 minute 11, FLRTJFNS, MJRNR TLI, all specimens 10 cat greater than 1 Yemi, Gartel 5, Alons and Fair, as Joe Muslims of F Nogdari.v and Natri Hitorv, F10 RX 10, semi, as of the IRHO.Arnoland S Tlofo, ANDF NMA QJA CMN 111, and Remal 1. The Shoney 1 TSRHI were designed by the UNPRR, Ario Intat IHD or Nurung Rodu with Reliri, Fesenis P, Rice Kammerbitter, Selentian, Ideal. Ro THT Torm Fulsion of Lamopi, N Injuncti. AO Myrologies, IHC, Renew Worlds Inhabitanars, 1MD, Sidley. M. Illy of Chest, Runningspersa PC, and Zan.HI 11. T. Wiener in Contemporary MNSS Make the I 111 RL. Up in Giro less than Poincuans of Retino or her. TGL Metafic Doyon T. FH. Quan 1 UI World, Foyer, WM. 1 second follows, RO1. ONI lived FL greater than for Rej PT Riod M11, Goldej 01 end on E, Hyherlon A. Spy 111, Lishi Swan Rikin of Wafar NLW. I was Tila Esa TD is a key L de Vezere. Undiscov FD, LMP.Rind. One Ionum from RHF, Tix UAE, Island of Guntim. Wrestler T, T of ETGA, and Fuco at LLTAM, 1 stray 1 ground, .HR, R of G1 Lippel, JR4NJ. VFW Re, and 4 Wart CL by Fake Mu, 1 foot, .LTN, Doc T greater thans, and rake into THFL, IADAR Brumon, 11 HEs. Lexonomic Plewani, RLR, Kribi Moner, LOSTN, FISXE 1I, Donnell, .CA, Eronidic. Were, disp.YT, next, ROTHI, LL, les, .Iclon, PSR Foreman I, Othen, Thrin.WL, we less than Embert on a hip, 2, WPLLT tier, watch HLM Civital R11111.ra, land, Indiltar FLT Lastano, Latin Jimmy Rear, and Rourke MSE on a BOM LM, Phonet Remode.VM nunt, WT11 neld, or form, Fiwa Dr. Nawidan, MD, hand WTT greater than RN R equivalent less than tier, RN, Dora, G1, I Abmu, UI1, U1 GC, Viters a low head death. Option, rotate 2. Less than net IM1 niche LR with Talon Celsius Pronomative. For the 9, WBM 1 CP10, Y, Addy, Mother 11. Rivety WTBR, menu. 4. Teach, in. The WP TN1, nanosecond, Ursili, WC, NT for it. V, Brothers Pi, Forkmo, Teclumbo Ply, in Madrid 1, Udonskuvem, in LC. S111 in Sanitarian in Washington. CH, 1 ID Museum of Chuao, NW York's Winnie Museum of Amralao Art, Ryle AU, SM1, 1, 1, and 11. Museum Osajui and Reipoajuan, U11 DNCO, R, J97. Traditions by juxtaposing authentic pre-Columbian and colonial art. New World, 0, C, and artifacts with trashy tourist artifacts and contemporary art. Again, we adopted a fictional center and pushed the dominant culture to the margins, treating it as exotic and unfamiliar. Among other installations, we recreated an excavation site of tourists from Wisconsin after being raided by angry locals, and a British collector's room with his secret collection of stolen indigenous artifacts revealing his interracial sexual fantasies. Our museum labels in simulated academic jargon revealed important information about the way the objects were obtained and about the political implications of naming other cultures. Through these exhibits, Coco and I began a dialogue with radical anthropologists and cultural critics working on parallel projects. The Guatemala World Tour. Coco Fusco and Miss Pefia on display in Madrid's Columbus Plaza, El Photo by Peter Barker. Patricios in Buenos Aires. As it traveled from site to site, it became more stylized, staged, and whimsical. Sadly, over 40% of our audience, no matter where we were, believed that the exhibit was real, at least during their first visit, and did not feel compelled to do anything about it. Experimental Archaeology, The Year of the White Bear, 1992. The Year of the W. White Bear premiered in October 1992 at the Walker Art Center in Minneapolis, and then it went to Chicago, Mexican Fine Arts Center, and Los Angeles, Otis Parsons Gallery. With this installation piece, Coco and I parodied the blockbuster multicultural shows of the early 90s, revealing their inherent political con. Performing in malls, Mexarcane International, 1994 to 1995. My last collaboration with Coco Fusco consisted of a series of performances called Mexarcane International, Ethnic Talent for Export. We invented a fictional post-NAFTA multinational corporation to market and distribute ethnic talent worldwide and brought it to shopping malls, placing our exhibition stand and temporary office in a highly visible site, usually next to the food court. A corporate-style backdrop, complete with explanatory texts in imitation corporate language. And happy images of exotic primitives from around the world was set up behind a desk at which Coco would be seated. Across from her, approximately 10 meters away, was my cage. For 4 to 6 hours a day, over 3-day periods, I exhibited myself inside a small gilded or bamboo cage as an exotic multicultural specimen. Every detail and motif of my costume came from a different culture in the Americas. I was a living sample of Mexarcane's products for export, and visitors to the mall could activate me to experience firsthand my incredible ethnic talents. My live demonstrations included doing a commercial for Chile shampoo and other organic products, modeling tribal wear, posing in attitudes of martyrdom, despair, 98.99, and poverty for German documentary photographers and U.S. evangelists, doing shamanistic rituals for confused suburbanites, playing New Age tribal music concerts on toy instruments, and demonstrating pre-Columbian condoms, using a clay dildo as a proxy. During these demonstrations, Coco Fusco, who was dressed as the Aztec girlfriend of Mr. Spock, conducted interviews and surveys to determine the ethnic desires of the audience. After each interview, she would decide which demonstration was for a particular consumer, who was then asked to approach the composite Indian myself and ask him to perform. This project was first tested at the National Review of Live Arts, Glasgow, and then it was taken to Toronto's Dufferin Mall and to London's Elegant Whiteley Shopping Centre as part of Lift 95. In front of us, they are sad, very sad and perplexed. Next to us, the real Indian dioramas speak of a mute world outside of history and social crises, and next to us, they strangely appear to be much less authentic. The visibly nervum staff makes sure that the audience understands that this is just performance art. New Wo IC I 0 AC Living and Dying Dioramas. The Shame Man Meets El Mexican 1993 ongoing. James Luna and I have known each other since the mid to 80s, and though our work is stylistically quite different, we share similar concerns. We are both critical of the way indigenous identities are portrayed by mainstream cultural institutions and commodified by pop culture, tourism, and self-realization movements. Since 1992, we have engaged in one collaborative project per year under the title The Shame Man Meets El Mexican at name of the host organization. One project comes to mind, and I quote from my performance diaries. It's Friday morning. Luna and I share a diorama space at the Smithsonian's Museum of Natural History. I sit on a toilet dressed as a mariachi in a straitjacket with a sign around my neck that reads, "There used to be a Mexican inside this body." One attempt unsuccessfully to get rid of my straitjacket in order to perform, entertain, or educate my audience. Jamed paces back and forth, changing identities. At times, he is an Indian Joe Shiner. Other times, he becomes a diabetic Indian, shooting insulin directly into his stomach. He then transforms into a janitor of color, like most of the janitors in this and other museums, and vacuums the diorama floor. Hundreds of visitors gather in Hey Man Meets El Mexican at the Smithsonian Motel and Golf Course. Jimmy's Pefia and James, 1993. Note: this photo was rejected for promotional purposes by the museum's publicity, meant because it suggests a homoerotic relationship between Jimmy's Pefia and Luna. Oh, by Cristina Tacon. 100. Intergenerational collaboration ongoing. My work with Roberto Cifuentes dates back to 1991, when he was the technical director of my 1991 performance project at the Next Wave Festival, Brooklyn Academy of Music. And for the past 3 years, he has been my main collaborator. 2 important borders separate U.S., cultural and generational. He is a Chicano in the process of Mexicanización, and I'm a Mexican in the process of Chicanización. He is 11 years my junior. These borders have become the raw material of our performance investigations. Performing for the Media, the Crud Fiction Project, 1994. In early 94, Roberto and I crucified ourselves for 3 hours on 16-foot-high crosses at Rodeo Beach, in front of San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge. The piece was designed for the media as a symbolic protest against the xenophobic immigration politics of California's Governor Pete Wilson. Inspired by the biblical myth of Demas and Gestas, 2 petty thieves who were crucified alongside of Jesus, Roberto and I decided to dress as 2 contemporary public enemies of California. I was an undocumented bandito, crucified by the INS, Immigration and Naturalization Service, and Roberto was a generic gang member, crucified by the LAPD, Los Angeles Police Department. Our audience of over 300 people each received a handout, asking them to free us from our martyrdom as a gesture of political commitment. However, we had miscalculated their response. Paralyzed by ray melancholia of the image, it took them over 3 hours to figure out how to get us down. By then, my right shoulder had become dislocated, and Roberto had passed out. We were carried to a nearby bonfire and nurtured back to reality, while some people in the crowd rebuked Rose who were trying to help us, saying, "Lure them die." Gómez-Peña and Roberto Cifuentes in The Crucifixion Project, Marin Headlands, 1994. 4-0 by Nef Navas. Photographs of the event were quickly picked up by the media, and the piece became international news. The image appeared in, among other publications, Der Spiegel, Germany, Cambio 16, Spain, Reforma, and La Jornada, Mexico, and various U.S. newspapers. The photos have since reappeared in major news media and art publications as the debates on immigration and AR's funding continue to be the focus of the political right. Last month, someone showed me another fate of one of those photos. It had been turned into a greeting card. 102, 103. Performance as a false religion, the Temple of Confessions, 1994 ongoing. In this performance installation, Roberto and I combine the format of the pseudo-ethnographic diorama, like my prior work with Fusco and Luna, with that of the religious dioramas often displayed in colonial Mexican churches. For 3-day periods, we exhibit ourselves in plexiglass boxes as both holy creatures and cultural specimens, calling ourselves end-of-the-century saints. The temple functions at the same time as an elaborate set design for a theater of mythos, and a melancholy ceremonial space for people to reflect on their attitudes toward other cultures. There are 3 main areas: the Chapel of Desires, the Chapel of Fears, and a mortuary chamber in the middle. In the Chapel of Desires, Roberto is on display as El Precolombian Vato, a holy gang member engaged in slow-motion ritualized actions. His arms and face are painted with pre-Columbian tattoos, and his t-shirt is covered with blood and holes from gunshots. He shares his plexiglass box with 50 cockroaches, a live 4-foot-long iguana, and a small table covered with useless technological gadgets and what appear to be real weapons. Behind him stands the aid of a pre-Columbian temple. Opposite Roberto in the Chapel of Fears, I sit in a wheelchair on a toilet. Dressed as Sanpocho Azlaneca, a hyper-exoticized curio shop shaman for spiritual tourists, dozens of tourist souvenirs and tribal talismans hang from my Tex-Mex Aztec outfit. I share my plexiglass box with live crickets, a taxidermy chicken, tribal musical instruments, and a table filled with witchcraft-looking artifacts. My altar is framed by neon. In the middle gallery, visitors encounter an enigmatic vignette. A 6-foot-tall wooden Indian and a mannequin wrapped in leopard skin mourn the contents of a body bag stamped by the INS. Velvet paintings depicting other hybrid saints hang on the red and black walls leading to the living Santos. Underneath each painting, a small table holds votive candles and assorted symbolic objects. People are encouraged to light a candle and to deposit personal ofrendas on the tables. Chola nuns, Norma Medina, Michelle Ceballos, and Carmel Coros, perform the dual roles of caretakers of the temple and living icons. At times, they are mere frozen images. Other times, they chant Mexican religious songs, clean the plexiglass boxes, or approach audience members to encourage them to confess. Their tableaux comment on classical painting, Catholic imagery, and movie stereotypes. Those visitors who wish to confess their intercultural fears and desires to the living saints have 3 options. They can either confess into the microphones placed on kneelers in front of the plexiglass boxes. Their voices are recorded and then altered in post-production to ensure their anonymity. Or, if they are shy, they can write their confessions on a card and deposit them in an urn, OT, call an 800 number. The most revealing confessions are later edited into the gallery's soundtrack for future performances. By the end of the 3rd day, we leave the plexiglass boxes and are replaced by life-size effigies. The temple remains as an installation for the next 3 to 6 weeks. Written and phone confessions are still accepted. So far, the temple has been presented at the Scottsdale Center for the Arts, Arizona, the Three Rivers Arts Festival, Pittsburgh, the Detroit Institute of Arts, Ex Teresa Arte Alternative, Mexico City, the Bannister Art Gallery, Providence, and it will be presented at the Corcoran Gallery in November of '96. El Shaman and El Mexican meet Cybervado at the Ethno-Cyberpunk Trading Post and Curio Shop on the Electronic Frontier, 1995. In this collaborative performance installation, Roberto, James, Luna, and I spent 5 days living, performing inside the Diverse Works Gallery space in San Antonio. Commenting on the multiple roles of the artist in the end of the century, we revealed the transformation processes that go from the realm of the personal to the public, and from ritual space to cyberspace. As visitors moved through the gallery, they found a dressing room area where we applied our makeup and changed costumes, assimilated. New. 11. I.e. C. 111, 104, 105. High art area, where our props and personal objects, along with various folk pre-Columbian and pop cultural artifacts, were carefully displayed as Ace-Reticized museum pieces with labels chat changed daily, finally arriving at a human exhibition area where we displayed ourselves as exotic cultural specimens and performance artists at work. Various monitors throughout the gallery played B-movies with racist depictions of Indians and Mexicans, as well as trashy TV broadcasters, i.e. evangelist preachers, the Home Shopping Channel, and local news broadcasters. Each day, in from of the visitors, James and I transformed ourselves into different performance personae. Robino captured the details of these transformations on a video camera, and these images were simultaneously on the gallery's video monitors and were also transmitted live onto the internet. Parallel to this process, Roberto exhibited himself as Cybervado, a living diorama of a highly technified gang member consumed by Riku Gajuian weapons. He had state-of-the-art technology to transmit daily messages to the World Wide Web, and he was connected to satellite sites at Rice University and MECA via video teleconferencing. Internet users who visited our webpage were invited to send in images and/or texts about how they felt Mexicans and Native Americans should look, behave, and perform in the 90s. These text, images, and sounds were shown on monitors manipulated by Cybervado, and they were also incorporated into the changing personae created by James and I. Io Sense. We were ethu cyborgs created by the imaginations of the net users. By the 3rd day, the shaman as a human artifact was replaced by local artists and adventurous audience members who got to wear Luna's costumes and become a real Indian for a period of time. On the 5th J, Roberto and I left the gallery space and ventured into the city in costume to stage a series of public actions. The installation remained on view for 6 more weeks, and the Teku Inserachu continued through the run of the show. PCR Formcro. They threw me out of Less Than B Museum of Anthropology. I didn't feel a IOB in Hollywood. No one believes that Aloma Zapatista. X. Teresa Arte Alternativo, Mexico City, 1995. Photo by Monica Naranjo. New World. 0. CL 106-107. New World Border. And the show goes on. As far as I can see into the future, I perceive 3 options regarding my artwork. First, to continue my performative exploration of intercultural relations and reversed anthropology, both in art spaces and in the more populist venues weight non-specialized audiences can be. Exposed to socially conscious experimental art. Second, Roberto and I have all today begun to incorporate some of the new technologies, an internet component, a web page, and a CD-ROM into our performance work. And we are interested in pursuing this in a responsible, innovative way. We are currently developing a series of high-tech performance projects that deal with desire and fear of otherness, immigration, and race relations. These projects involve humor and multilingualism. We're a meta-language that Quezrians maters of access and privilege. Finally, I feel it is important to continue creating ephemeral communities that bring artists together to work intensely on a common goal, fought a short period of time. As we did with the Borderama series and also in Torino, Palectoso, Danget Zone, the unprecedented and less than perhaps irreversible political, cultural, and economic crisis that is afflicting our continent is forcing artists and intellectuals to reevaluate our working methods, our communication strategies, and even our roles in society. In the United States, where xenophobia, conservatism, and isolationism have become accepted as part of mainstream culture, the alternative space net to TK is literally crumbling, and funding sources for art are cautious and scarce. It has become much more difficult to carry out large-scale projects of a collaborative nature, especially those involving artists from other countries. And paradoxically, the WOTK we are doing seems more pertinent than EVIT. I firmly believe that despite the indifference and in some cases overt antagonism of the political class, the role that art and education can perform is crucial and irreplaceable. THC, San. Francisco, Carol for Borderama, Daryl Bales, Sarshell and Mann, Darren Chase, Margaret Leonard, Robin Cifuentes, Gómez-Peña, and Eric Book Priura. Dealer Arto, 1996. Photo by Eugenio Castro, 108, 109. The artist is criminal. I vividly remember that cold afternoon, Ike Benas Aires. My colleague Coco Fusco and I were performing a version of our project, the Guatanawi World Tour, right on the corner of Callao and Corrientes, one of the most frequented corners in the Sairi. As part of our performance project, subverting the colonial formats of the living diorama and pseudo-ethnographic exhibitions of humans, we spent 3 days inside a gilded cage, displaying ourselves as exotic premieres from a fictitious island in the Gulf of Mexico. Suddenly, from within the crowd, a mysterious character appeared, sprinkled me with liquid, and then disappeared. Seconds later, I realized I had been the victim of a physical assault. My stomach had been burned with acid. One of the many theories circulating in the Buenos Aires artistic community speculated that this attack involved a misunderstanding. The assailant Muser have thought Rat Our Project was a direct commentary on Argentine military culture, which jailed thousands of youths before the alleged democratic transition of 1987, and felt himself implicated. For politicized border artists experimenting with the tenuous and ever fluctuating frontiers between art and life, there is always a real danger present, especially when the artwork occurs outside of RAI protected space of cultural institutions. In other words, it's one thing to carry out iconoclastic actions in a theater or museum for a public that is predisposed to tolerate radical behavior, and it's quite another to bring the same work into the street and introduce it into the mind terrain of unpredictable social and political forces. In the street, the risks are far. New World 0C, Greer. Some of these are obvious, such as confronting the intolerance of the police, the army, or extremist groups. Others are more random, like a surprise encounter with a lunatic who happens to cross your path. Performance artists are well aware of these risks, but every now and then we don't accurately gauge the climate of the context or the symbolic weight of our actions. In mid to July of 1994, I received a disturbing telephone call. The artist Hugo Sanchez, who shares his name with a Mexican soccer star, a native of Ciudad Obregón, Sonora, longtime resident of Tijuana, and current resident of Culiacán, Sinaloa, had just been deported not from RA city of San Diego for desecrating the Mexican flag in a performance. The newspapers, including the infamous Mexican tabloid El Alarma, published scandalous images and headlines portraying the Nortefio artist as a psychopar. The facts, hallucinatory as they are the following. On July 11th, Hugo Sanchez arrived in Tijuana to participate in the filming of FM and Tet Iltem Daya, co-directed by Ruben Ortiz from Mexico and Jesse Lerner from the United States, and sponsored by the Fundación Cultural Mexicana, Mexican Cultural Foundation. The filmmakers described the work as an experimental chronicle, half-documentary and half-poetic essay of Reichi mythical perceptions, which both sides of the border have for each other. The directors planned to shoot a performance by Hugo Sanchez using the streets of Tijuana as a backdrop. The portion of the work row he filmed focused on the topic of migration. The hybrid character played by Sanchez was a type of undocumented Zapatistacha, or cowboy, decked out in a mariachi sombrero a la TJ Curio style, a ski mask, a flag wrapped around his chest with a cow's head representing, in the artist's words, the pain of the immigrants who cross the border daily and who are sacrificed like animals by an inhuman work police system. 182-183. Film MG began early on July 12th. The crew consisted of only a cameraman, a photographer, and a sound technician. The 2 opening scenes were filmed without mishap. The first in front of an extremely strange edifice in the shape of an ionic column, which is known as the Wada, and the second next to the monument too. The freedom of expression. After these sequences were filmed, the group made its way over to the monument to the textbook, located in front of the Lazaro Cardenas School, The crew prepared to shoot a scene in which Hugo was to insert nails into the cow's tongue, which came out of his mouth, appearing to be his own tongue, as a commentary on the pain engendered by the misunderstandings between races and RN double entries. Lights, camera, action. Suddenly, Ricardo Luna and Jorge Nava, two agents from the municipal police, appeared. The filmmakers showed them a letter from the Fundación sponsoring the project, explaining that it was a cultural project, not a political action. The policemen had lost their patience and their sense of humor, and decided to arrest Hugo Sanchez under suspicion of disrespect for the flag. Many patrols arrived, and all hell broke loose. Since Hugo was being charged with a federal offense, he was immediately transferred to Ray Office of the FADERA. Prosecutor, PGR, tabloid photographers surrounded the Zapatista cowboy and captured his rage and confusion. Flash, click, alarma style. Eagerly, they were close-ups of the cow's head and of the sacrosanct, blood-stained flag. Subsequently, the police transferred the performance artist to a clinic for drug addicts and people with psychological disorders. Fortunately, after a meticulous examination, the doctor declared that the artist was neither a drug addict nor crazy. Upon being returned to the cells of the PGR, Hugo was subjected to a full-body search amid the constant insults of the law enforcement officers. As a protest, he decided to go on a hunger strike. The deputies found a U.S. passport in the artist's clothes. Hugo explained that although I was born and have always lived on Mexican territory, my mother made me a nationalized North American when I was young, just like millions of other border Mexicans. The officials confiscated Hugo's passport and decided he was Chicano, nor a Mexican. On July 13th, through the desperate forks of Hugo's friends, various organizations got wind of the situation. Representatives of the National Committee of Human Rights, the Casa de la Cultura de Tijuana, and the Tijuana Cultural Center began to pressure the PGR for Hugo's release. Also on that day, the artist had to present his version of events before the legislator Socorro Lopez. Hugo contended that he never had the intention of desecrating the flag, and that, paradoxically, the performance had been conceived as a patriotic gesture of symbolic defense of the Mexican immigrants who daily risk their lives crossing a really dangerous border. Ms. Lopez burst out laughing. The PGR authorities got in touch with agents from Mexican immigration, and together they decided that the artist, who has devoted much of his life to defending undocumented workers, was illegally dwelling in Mexico, his native land. Hugo's risks were multiplying. As he was considered a foreigner, the insult to the flag would have more serious consequences for him. He was alerted to the real possibility of becoming persona non grata under Article 33 of the Mexican Constitution, which would forbid him from ever setting foot in Mexican territory again. He was transferred to the sinister prison known as La Ocho, where they locked him up with other foreigners. His deportation proceedings began. On the morning of July 14th, a Hispanic representative from the U.S. consulate visited Hugo Sanchez in his cell. Hugo was told not to worry, that soon he would return to his country. Hugo tried to explain his country was Mexico, and IR was there that he wished Roe remain. The consular envoy didn't get IC. On July 15th, accompanied by an agent from Mexican immigration and a deputy, Hugo was transferred to the customs office of the city of Tijuana there. He was required to pay a fine for being a foreigner, and NWE0 AAM 0, 184, 185, acting in a Mexican film without being in possession of the appropriate permits. Fortunately, a curator from the Tijuana Cultural Center telephoned Che agents and convinced Kem not to find Che artist, arguing that people don't make money doing this type of art performance. Hours later, Hugo was finally handed over to the U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Service authorities. Maestro, Hugo told me, for the first time in my life, the Migra gave me a hero's welcome. They even gave me lunch money. It's like I just walked into a mirror where reality's turned upside down. Later, on the same day of his deportation, the exhausted and humiliated artist decided to return to Tijuana illegally and confront the Mexican authorities. He went to District Court number 7 to inquire about his case and the whereabouts of his passport. The judge was on vacation. An employee who had read about the case of the lunatic in the newspaper assured him that he would receive a summons to appear in court and warned him that he should be prepared so receive, according to the judge's discretion, either 4 years in prison in Mexico or permanent deportation. As befits the hair-raising paradox of this binational thriller, Hugo's first court date was set for September 18th, 2 days after the celebration of the Mexican Declaration, Grito of Independence. When September came, he was notified of a change of date. This time, he was set to appear in court on October 11th, one day before the alleged discovery of America, which is known in Mexico as Dia de la Raza, birth of the mestizo race. A few days later, Hugo's court date was postponed indefinitely. Desperate and penniless, Hugo decided to cross the border and await the new date in his fictitious country of origin. Mexico, his true country, had been transformed into a juridical nightmare out of a Chicano Secret Service pochonovela. Hugo Sanchez's case is unique, a Mexican deported to the United States for doing a performance. Why? Perhaps it had to do with the politically charged context. It was an extremely tense time in Tijuana. The assassinations of the ruling party's presidential candidate Colosio and of Tijuana's chief of police Benitez had created a pervasive climate of melancholy, mistrust, and fear that affected everyone. Perhaps IC was the rhyming of the incident, 1 month before the Mexican election scheduled for August 21, which the opposition party had a real possibility of winning. Tijuana was in the hands of the opposition at that time. But other inescapable extra-contextual factors are also part of the picture. The police's intolerance for alternative culture and the heavy restrictions on freedom of expression in Mexico definitely contributed to Sanchez's Kafkaesque nightmare. Sadly, in an authoritarian society that so desperately wants to consider itself the eternal protagonist of a transition to democracy, the borders between arc and illegality are becoming increasingly thin. In a letter of support for the Mexican artist, the Chicano artist and writer Ruben Guevara Rosé, Hugo Sanchez's performance was as offensive as the social conditions that inspired it. The artist is nothing if not a catalyst of social and cultural forces, and his work is a simple stylized reflection of reality. The shameful judgment passed on Sanchez is a test of the new government's Zedillo's democratic image. The test consists precisely in allowing any cultural gesture, however radical or strange it may seem to be, not just tolerated, but respected. Thanks to media pressure, including publication of this essay in Mexico's national daily newspaper La Jornada, the judge decided to dismiss Hugo's case in December. The passport disappeared mysteriously from the Mexicali archives. Maybe now there is a third Hugo Sanchez wandering the streets of San Diego, Los Angeles, or San Francisco. The challenge for Hugo Sanchez now, the performance artist that is to overcome his fear of using the street as a laboratory for artistic creation and co-recover his fragile and bruised Mexican identity. As for me, only a scar on my right leg remains as a sinister memory of the dangers involved in doing performance in the 90s. Translated by Christopher Winks. Z, 0. Z, 186, 187.